Welcome back to Rookie Mistakes. That's Jeremy. I'm Ethan. We're here, episode 10. We're talking baseball.
We're back. We are back. It's episode 11, I think.
Episode 11.
Dude,
wow.
you've been losing track of
I
every.
have been losing track. We're in the double digits now, so what can I say?
Hell yeah. Wow, dude, I'm so excited.
Yeah, well, the craziest thing is we're also in the middle of March Madness right now.
Yes.
Final Four has been set. How's our brackets looking? Because I know we have our own little league of our own.
We do. We have a league of our own. We are down to our final two competitors. It is down to Sarah Parks, your girlfriend, and Max Alpert, friend from Michigan.
I promise I'm not fixing anything.
Friend of the program. Well, friend of mine from Penn.
Friend of yours from Penn.
Friend of
mine from camp.
From camp, yes.
Shout out Machane Ramah.
Yeah, shout out to Max. It's down to these two, and really, Max needs UConn to win. Sarah needs Purdue to win. And in any scenario where UConn does not win, Sarah wins.
Okay, so Sarah's looking pretty damn good.
Sarah's looking good. Max just needs UConn. So
Max needs UConn.
Those are the two best teams left. UConn plays... who does UConn? UConn plays Alabama, and Purdue plays NC State, upstart 11 seed in the Final Four.
When was the last time an 11 seed made the Final Four?
I think
any.
I don't know. Actually, UCLA, I think 2 or 3 years ago, made it to the Final Four as an 11 seed as a play-in team.
Wow, that's crazy. We talked about that last time.
Yes, that was a crazy run. Should we check out who's not doing well in our bracket?
But also, real quick, Sarah's bracket is actually nuts.
Oh, it's elite.
It's elite. She has 3 of the 4 Final Four.
She has UConn, Purdue, and Alabama.
And she had 7 of the 8 Elite 8.
Did she actually?
She had 7 of the 8 Elite 8 besides NC State.
No way.
So she actually, I don't know what she did, but she picked a superb bracket.
Dude, she had Alabama against Clemson and had Alabama winning. She had Purdue, Tennessee. She had UConn, Illinois. She had Duke beating Houston. She had an unbelievable bracket. What did she do?
Yeah, she had an insane bracket.
She clearly wasn't taking your advice.
No.
You picked St. Mary's to win it all.
So I will say, I know I gave my own advice on how to pick the best teams last time. I thought St. Mary's was a sleeper. I was really excited. I was like dreaming about coming back on the pod and you being like, dude, how'd you know? Like how'd you know St. Mary's was going to do it all? And I would have told you. I would have told you my strategy, which in a parallel universe, this is what would have gone down on this podcast. Yeah. Instead, St. Mary's was out, I think, the first or second round.
Yeah, they not only were they out in the first round, I picked them to lose in the first round.
Yeah, my bracket was so busted. It honestly was so deflating. I saw you like the day after for a Purim thing, and I was just like, yeah, dude, I like fucked up.
Yeah, I do respect the move though of like really trying to go bold.
Yes,
and it would have been awesome.
Yes, because honestly, in a 49 person
57, dude.
57.
We broke yeah.
There you go. 57 person league. It's like you got to be the differentiator.
Right.
If you're not going to be it, who is? You know what I mean?
If you're not going to go 7 for 8 in your Elite 8 like Sarah did, you got to be unique. Yeah.
But we can look at the all-time losers because I'm not worst. I'm 35th. Alicia, your friend, is actually last, in dead last, 0 of 4.
Dead last.
0 of 4 Final Four, 2 of 8 Elite 8.
Oh my gosh, his Elite 8 is ugly. Oh, Alicia, I'm sorry. Yeah, putting you on blast right now. Okay, he had North Carolina against New Mexico. New Mexico, very bold choice, but again, an 11 seed did make it on the other side.
Yes.
He had Purdue. That was the only team he had right. He had Houston against Kentucky. Neither made it. He had Auburn against Illinois. He had Illinois right. None of his Final Four teams. This is
yeah, that was pretty gross. Kyla.
Oh yeah, Kyla. Sorry.
Didn't
Kyla Mintz. Oh, Kyla and Alicia are tied for dead last. They both currently have 46 points, and their max potential points are 46.
Yes. So we did talk before recording, and we did say maybe the last place was also going to get a Rookie Mistakes t-shirt.
We talked about it.
So Kyla and Alicia, maybe you should be betting against yourself at this point.
But they're both maxed out.
Oh, they're both maxed out. Okay, so maybe you both will get a Rookie Mistakes. Yeah, we'll have to talk about that. Okay. We don't have much finances, I must say.
No, if anyone wants to fund the t-shirts, feel free.
Yeah, but if we buy in bulk, they might be cheaper per. So
that's true. Wow. Okay, so pretty abysmal showing. Sorry, guys, to put you on blast like this, but not a great showing. 46 points. Ethan, where are you in the standings?
I'm pretty poor. I'm
honestly, you're 35th. I'm tied for 35th. You are maxed out at 54 points.
There you go.
Look, I didn't do much better, but to my credit, my champion is still in, and that's because I'm boring and I picked UConn. But I'm currently at 70 points with 118 potential points.
There you go. Okay. You could make some ground
just
there.
to compare that to the current leader and likely winner, Sarah, if Purdue wins. She has 100 points, 20 ahead of second place, and her potential points are a 164.
There you go.
That's got to be like a top bracket in all of March Madness.
Yeah, so I checked before NC State won that last round, and who they beat. They beat Duke. So before they beat Duke, when she had 7 of 7 Elite Eight, she was top 200 on all of Yahoo Sports.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was nuts. It was insane.
Whoa.
She was like the 0.01%. Now there have been people who have picked the Final Four. It's pretty crazy to have picked so, but there are
them.
Yeah, I mean, like these are like the top leaderboards on ESPN and Yahoo Sports. Like there are. This is like what I care about. Like all I'm doing is like refreshing like the leaderboards of all time because that's like because there's always like Kia giving out a free car or something to like anyone who calls it.
I think I submitted mine into like the
Kia sweepstakes or something
or whatever it is. Like, oh, maybe I'll make a perfect bracket. Who knows?
Yeah. But
that's March Madness.
That's March Madness for you. A couple big things. One is you went to the game yesterday, LSU versus Iowa women's game in Albany.
Yeah. So I think we haven't really talked to everyone. We haven't talked together since Orly's viral video.
Yes. Okay.
So
this is crazy.
We got to take a step back.
Yeah. Let's take a step back.
On Purim, which was a week and a half ago, Saturday night, Sunday, Orly for a while, as we've talked about on this podcast, looks a lot like Caitlin Clark.
Crazy.
Not
just looks, she's just as tall as Caitlin Clark, I think.
She's a couple inches shorter.
But she's like 6 feet.
No, Orly's like 5'9".
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. She's tall.
But she looks like a baller.
So she looks like she could be a ball player because she's tall for a woman, I guess. I don't know what the average woman's height is, but 5'9" is pretty tall.
It's pretty tall.
And so for Purim, she borrowed our friend Joe Solomon's Caitlin Clark jersey. She wore it. She convinced me to dress up as a basketball.
Yes.
So I wore all orange. I wore suspenders. And we took a very quick, innocent video of Orly dribbling me like a basketball and me jumping around on the floor.
Yes. You like doing a little like Frogger type style.
Exactly.
Yeah.
7-second video. Orly goes, I'm going to post it on our TikTok. I'm like, okay, that's fun. I wake up the next morning and Orly goes, oh, our TikTok has 12,000 views. I'm like, wow, that's a lot of views.
Yeah, more than any of our TikToks, I must say.
By far. And more than any views that Orly and I have gotten on our account.
Yeah.
And I come back an hour later and she goes, it has 50,000 views. And
so what does this convert into like likes? Like, do you know at the time? Like, are we talking like a couple thousand likes?
Yeah, like thousands of likes. Right now, well, I'll get to right now in a sec.
Yeah.
But we look at each other and we're like, what's going on? Like, what is happening? And then throughout the day, we were going to a bunch of Purim parties, getting a lot of food and drinks and us, whatever. And people are like, guys, this video is blowing up. And then before you know it, John Boy Media posted it.
And John Boy Media, for those that don't know, is where you work. But did they know it was you?
So they knew it was me, but they came across it organically. Someone on the social team happened to see it on TikTok because it was really hitting the algorithm. They wrote into the social chat, guys, look at this. Like, you need to see this. And they were like, oh my God, we have to post this. So they posted it on their Instagram.
Wow.
And as of today, I think it has 2.9 million views on their Instagram, which is crazy.
Wait, this is the original or this is the John Boy?
This is the one that they posted.
Wow.
And
this is crazy.
Our TikTok is almost at 1 million views, which is just mind-blowing.
It's nuts.
Insane.
And also, ESPN commented,
yes,
like all these like CBS, like fucking like
Bleacher Report, House of Highlights, ESPN, yes. NCAA, like ESPN Women's commented. Like everyone wanted to post.
So
this video.
I saw. So ESPN commented like, "Do you own the rights to this video? Can we, can we like have the rights to it?" What happened there?
So Orly DM'd them and was basically like, because they were the third or fourth account to reach out, and at that point we were like, "Oh, people really want this video. Like, do we need to like be strategic about this?
Do you need to like barter them against each other?
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
So what we said was, we were like, "Hey, like, can you help us meet Caitlin Clark? This is ESPN, right?"
Yeah.
We're like, maybe they can do it. They have the rights to all of the games for the women's tournament. So Orly reached out, DM'd them, no response.
Oh, ouch.
Tried again, no response. And you max out at 3 DMs on TikTok if it's like to a verified account and you're not getting a response. And
so you've been holding that third though. You haven't hit the third.
So we hit the third. On the third message, we didn't realize at the time there was a cap.
Ouch.
The third message was like, if you guys can't, like, it's fine. You can still post it anyway. And they did. no shade to like ESPN TikTok, but their TikTok like kind of stinks. They just post videos like every minute, so it just buries everything.
Yeah. So how many views does their Orly and Jeremy, Caitlin Clark?
Maybe like 100K.
Okay.
Yeah, like not crazy. Like our own TikTok is doing better, which is wild.
That's interesting.
But yeah, all these accounts like credited us and linked it to us. We posted that video and had like 40 followers at the time, and now we have like 350, which is hilarious.
Shit.
Yeah. So all of that as the backdrop, we were in, well, I guess we kind of been thinking about it for a while, but when this thing started to blow up, a bunch of our friends were like, they're playing the Elite Eight game in Albany, in New York. Like, you guys have to go. And then as all the pieces are coming together, Iowa won, LSU won their game. It's set up for a rematch of last year's championship. And everyone was like, wait, this is also going to be like the most hyped women's college basketball game ever. And it was. It had record viewership. 13.2 million people watched the game. Most viewed women's college basketball game of all time.
Crazy. And records are being broken left and right here.
Insane. And on Sunday night, we just decided to send it. We're like, we're going to get tickets. And we have to give a lot of credit to our friend Joe Solomont, who owns the Caitlin Clark jersey, because I was with him in Florida over the weekend for Ari Clements Ufruf.
Nice.
And Joe was saying, like, you guys have to go. He's like, if you guys want to go, like, I want to go to this game. Like, he's like, I'm not going to go alone because, like, then I have to get there and back on my own, whatever.
Yeah.
But, like, if you guys go, tell me. Like, I want to go. So Joe he went up to Albany on a train at, like, 10 a.m. He worked from a hotel. And then we drove up on Monday afternoon, met him there.
That is so insane.
Filmed all this stuff. Like, Orly had the headband and the jersey and everything. And we just posted another TikTok. We're recording this Tuesday night. We just posted another one, and we collabed it with John Boy Media on Instagram. And in the first, like, half hour has over 100,000 views. And because we realized that, like, we didn't have an Instagram account created the same way we had a TikTok one. So we had nowhere to post it on Instagram. And then when this blew up, we were like, wait, like, we need to make an Instagram account. So they collabed it with our Instagram account, and it's on TikTok.
Crap.
And it's all of this is nuts, but we went to the game.
It's so nuts.
We had such an incredible time, and everyone thought Orly was Caitlin Clark.
There's one video of her like walking through like the bleachers and like behind the scenes, like the hot dog stands, and people are like dapping her up like they're like she's Caitlin Clark or Caitlin Clark's sister. She's like, no, like you're her sister, right? And she's like, no, I'm not. Also, like I feel like Orly's a little bit like abashed about the whole thing. She's like, okay, this is like getting a little too much.
There was one point we were maybe like 5 pictures in of people, because once one person, everyone we walked past did a double take. They were like, wait, that what?
It's so insane.
And the first person who said Caitlin Clark out loud opened the floodgates. Everyone wanted a picture. Everyone wanted a video. So we captured as much of it as we could and posted it on TikTok.
That is so funny.
But legit, everywhere we walked, people were turning heads like, wait, what's going on?
It is actually absurd. She's literally a spitting image of Caitlin Clark.
So crazy. So yeah, that was our adventurous Monday night. So fun.
Also a great game to go to.
The game was unbelievable.
And Caitlin Clark played amazing.
She had 41 points, 12 assists, 7 rebounds. Like, what more could you want? It was one of the most fun sporting experiences I've ever had. It was so cool.
That is amazing.
So cool. Yeah.
I am so just like insane. Like looking at Caitlin Clark play a game like that over and over, have record-breaking work. Like, I think she had 9 behind the 3-point line.
Yeah.
She had like step backs like Curry. It was in like one of the most important games of her career against one of the greatest opponents of her career. And it's just like watching that in real time must have been insane.
It was really incredible. I think you summarized it perfectly. Like, she had one of the biggest games of her career in the biggest game of her career.
Yeah.
Like,
against an opponent that last year they lost to
in the championship.
I
know.
There's just so much riding on this.
Dude, the atmosphere was unbelievable. Like, I think women's sports in general get a bad rap. And we've talked about this a lot on the pod. Like, she has done so much for the sport, but there's also like women's hockey is really becoming more popular now. And people are putting more eyeballs on women's sports because of like all of the hype that's been around her and like women's college basketball in general this year. And it was so cool to be in the stadium, not a single empty seat. The place was packed. People were raucous the whole night. It was electric. It was unbelievable. Like, what an it was awesome. And Caitlin Clark is so freaking cool.
Yeah,
she's
that's
so
awesome.
Cool.
You got to meet her.
I know. That's like our goal. We like, we keep tagging her in these things, and we don't want to be annoying, right?
Yeah.
Like, we don't want to bug her, but like
after the season, though. After the season, you can bug her.
Like, once she's in the WNBA, when she plays a game in Brooklyn, like,
yeah.
gotta get a picture at least. It's so crazy how much Orly looks like her.
It is interesting because I think the New York Times wrote an article about whether she was going to decide to go to the WNBA or not, and just like her sort of financial or monetization strategy on moving to the NBA. They just don't make nearly as much. I mean, they make things off of partnerships and sponsors.
WNBA.
The WNBA, sorry. But like the WNBA average salary is like $80,000.
Right.
Max is at $250,000.
Right.
Caitlin Clark has sponsorships and partnerships that are like $4.5 million.
Yeah.
And she gets so much more exposure in the college realm.
Yeah.
So it's just like really, really weird to think that, okay, once she graduates college and becomes a player of the WNBA, it's actually going to be easier to get in touch with her, to get close to her than where she is now.
Yeah. It is really weird because colleges have such a built-in following because all of their alum care.
Yeah.
And for every star that's come through college basketball, once they hit the WNBA, people are like, they kind of lose interest. They don't care as much. So it'll be really interesting to see if she transcends that. Yeah. Right? Like if she brings millions of followers to the WNBA with her. What I thought was really interesting is she's making over $3 million from her brand deals, and those aren't going to go away. She's only going to continue to make more money. But she got offered, have you heard of the Big Three?
No.
The Big Three is a league. I think Ice Cube made it. We'll have to fact check that.
Is it a 3-on-3 league?
It's a 3-on-3 league of mostly like retired NBA players.
This is like all over my Facebook news feed.
Oh, really?
Like 3v3 highlights on the Big Three.
It's hilarious. And they offered her $5 million to play in the Big Three league.
Wow.
And she hasn't really commented on it. I think most people expect her not to take it.
Is it a co-ed league?
No. She'd be the first woman in that league.
Wow.
I think the reason she wouldn't take it is like, I don't know that that's fun for her or really like developing her career at all. And she's going to make enough money from her brand deals. Like she doesn't need that. But the fact that they offered her $5 million because they know she will bring eyeballs to this game that they're trying to build up is like, she's just next level.
Yeah. She's like made something so much larger than herself at this point. It's crazy. She has done so much for women's basketball. I was reading an article also that was really interesting. It was on 538, this like stats page.
Yeah. Nate Silver.
Yeah. Nate Silver. Exactly. And it was interesting because it was talking about women's basketball and the fact that there aren't many upsets. Mm-hmm. And something that it was trying to debunk is saying the fact that there are not that many upsets is not because there's a lack of depth to the women's game. It's not because that, it's because of something else entirely. But what they did is they tried to distill women's college basketball into how many high school women's players actually make it to college and that conversion rate. So what's interesting is 1 of every 87 high school women's basketball players make it to play college basketball.
Really?
1 in every 87. The only other college sport that has that high...
Yeah, that's a really high percentage.
Yeah, or it's a low percentage. 1 over 87 is the percentage, so it's a low percentage because
high compared to other sports. No,
but no, it's very low compared to other sports.
Oh, really?
For example, you take men's soccer. 1 of every 73 high school men's soccer player makes it to college.
Oh, interesting.
The only other sport that has a lower percentage or a higher number of high school players, where 1 of which makes it to college, is men's basketball. 101 high school players to 1 men's college basketball player. So there is a ton of depth here. Like the amount of people that actually make it proportionally to play women's college basketball is very, very low.
That's so interesting. Is that to say that a higher percentage of high school football players go on to play college football?
Yes.
That's what you're saying?
Yes. But the proportion of college to professional, that's a little bit more tricky on any sport.
Right. That makes sense. Wow, that's fascinating.
Yes. And a couple of other things, because again, it's trying to refute the fact that there's no depth to women's basketball. Women's basketball in the NCAA, there are 1,090 basketball teams, the most of any sport. There's a ton of teams. There is a ton of just... The top teams in women's basketball have the top recruits, and that's why they're good.
Right. They get all the best players.
Exactly. They get all the best players, which, like, if you like look at the numbers, you're like, oh, that makes sense. But if you just are like, oh, UConn's always winning, well, it's because they're getting the best players.
Right.
And the last thing that I'll say is what they do try to say is the reason why there's no upsets in women's basketball is because great players stick around for 4 years in women's basketball, not so much in men's college basketball.
Right.
Because of that, they play with other teammates for a very long time. The effect of good recruiting, good coaching, all of this lasts a lot longer. So you can build dynasties in women's college basketball much easier than in men's college basketball.
That makes sense. I mean, you mentioned last episode in your trivia that Kentucky sends the most players to the NBA.
Yes.
And most of those guys, it's called one and done. They do 1 year in college and they're done. They go to the NBA draft. Whereas in women's college basketball, Caitlin Clark on Iowa is the best player in college basketball history, men or women. This is her 4th year. Like, she wants to play all of those years. And if you're an up and coming player and you see Caitlin Clark as a junior and you're like, hey, if I'm going to go anywhere, I want to play with the best player in the world. Like, I'll do my freshman year at Iowa. So yeah, I think it's a great point you're making. Like, there's that continuity. There's the recruitment piece, which is obviously huge. Like, every year UConn gets the best recruits because Gino Auriemma, the head coach, always puts together an amazing team. They have a good program. They have a good reputation. So like, they're always going to be good, and they're obviously good again this year. So yeah, it's just kind of, it's crazy that like the women's game is so selective. I didn't realize how few make it from high school to college. It's really interesting.
And I think, like you put it, the continuity piece, it shouldn't be downplayed. Just the fact that you're there for 4 years, you build a rapport with your teammates, the coach, you get to know the coaches, things like this. It does last, and it's a telltale sign when UConn continues to win. Obviously the coaching is a big part of it, but like, you have these dynasties built, and they're not built in a minute, they're built in a decade, right? They're just built with continual reinforcement and teammates and all this other stuff.
Yeah, it's true. And the longer you can keep the coach, the longer you keep all of that intact. So dude, we also need to talk about your ultra marathon, because you sent me a screenshot and I held most of my questions because I was just so blown away by your run. But tell us a little bit about your ultra marathon.
So this weekend on Sunday was the weekend. Me and my running friend, Henry Coling, shout out to Henry, we ran around the entire perimeter of Manhattan.
Unbelievable.
Manhattan is an island. We ran the 33 miles, starting from under the Williamsburg Bridge all the way around back to under the Williamsburg Bridge.
Wow.
So
fun fact for everyone, the perimeter of Manhattan is 33 miles.
It's 33 miles, give or take. Now, again, they haven't built out all of the roadside trails. So you can't see the water at all times. But I spent a good couple hours on Google Maps Street View just clicking through like where we would have to turn off due to construction and where we could get back on. So, for example, the Greenway on the east side that just opened from 51st to 63rd, that we could run on, but we got to get off 63rd and run up First Ave for 20 plus streets to get back on.
How many stops did you make along the way? Because I know you said you were going to meet up with friends. Your sister was going to be on the route.
Yeah, so a few people showed face. Shout out to Sheva, shout out to Sarah, shout out to my sister, shout out to Astrid, who's Henry's girlfriend. Nice. But we stopped for a lot of water. I mean, we got to always hydrate, and a ton of calories. So we're like, I ate a ton of protein bars, Gatorade, all of these different ways to just like put stuff in my system as quick as possible. Henry did the same. He didn't eat my protein bars because he's allergic to peanuts, but that's okay. He had his own things. He had like Stroop waffles. So
Stroop waffles?
Yeah, I think they were like high in protein or something. It was weird. Okay. But we stopped like 4 or 5 times, but mostly to stretch out and to hit a bodega for all of those things. What's funny is I think I told Sarah, oh, like come by and like, we'll like stop and chat for a bit. We were not stopping and chatting. She like had her iced coffee, and I was like, all right, like hop in the run. So she was running with us for like a quarter mile, and she's like, all right, like I'm out. Same with my sister. She's like, I thought like you were stopping to hang. Didn't really happen. But stretched about 5 times. The last 7 miles were like brutal. I think there's a time when I'm in a long run and it's just, I love running. I love running, but there's a time when it's just, it crosses that threshold of like, this is not fun.
Mile 26.
This is not fun anymore. I was like, this is really going to be hard. It's like the time, it's like the inflection point where every additional mile is harder than the last and a lot harder, and time seems to slow down to snail level pace. And then you're like really, really straining.
And is that, it's hard on your legs? Or are you like having a hard time breathing? Like what becomes hard about it?
So it's hard on my legs. I don't know, like maybe this has never happened to you, but when you have done a lot of exercise and you hold your leg in one place and it starts to cramp up, it like tightens on itself. Yeah. So if I don't keep moving, then that'll happen like in like 3 or 4 seconds. Okay. So it's like continuous movement. I'm pretty healthy, like cardiovascularly. So I don't know if that's a word, but I'm like pretty. So when it comes to like my upper body and my cardiovascular strength, it's fine. Okay. But my legs, they start to just feel really, really heavy, and each additional step is pretty hard. And then it's like really like a mental game. game, and it's a lot of grit, and it was a really good time. I'm really happy we did it. Just under 8-minute miles, so that was great.
What was it, 7:48?
7:48.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, so that was fun.
For everyone who doesn't really understand what that means, I was really proud with my half marathon, 13 miles, run at a 9-minute pace. Ethan ran 33 miles at a 7:48 pace. That is absolutely insane.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was crazy. It was funny. The night earlier, it like comes up. I don't really bring it up because it's a strange thing to like run as much as I do. Right. Like, and it's like not.
Well, it's your thing.
It's my thing. I love running. But like, Sarah or someone brought it up, and one of my friends went, My boyfriend did that, but he did it on a bike, and I thought it was cool. And I was like, yeah, well, I'm about to do it on foot. So.
Wait, so from a logistical standpoint, when you're keeping track of your time, are you pausing it on the Strava app every time you stop to like get food and get drinks?
Yes. So on my watch is hooked up to Strava.
Oh, okay.
I pause it. Some people say it's cheating. I disagree, but see where they're coming from. Right? Like, I think if you don't pause it because you're tired, but because, you would pause it at a red light, for example. Right? Like, obviously, you need to keep your pace and you want to make sure your splits are correct.
Right.
So I don't think we paused it because, we needed to catch our breath, but rather we had to stop for a Gatorade.
Right.
Anyway,
I think that's totally different. I would have stopped.
I'm glad I have your validation too.
100%. This is like one of the most impressive things I've ever heard. I was blown away by this.
Yeah, well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't have anything else up for my running, but I'll probably put something on the timeline pretty soon to try to look forward to something. We'll see.
Do you have any like film of you guys running? Because I'd watch that. If you guys posted like a 60-second video of you guys running,
we should have vlogged. Someone was like, "You guys gotta vlog this," and we didn't. But we did get like Henry's girlfriend was at the finish line who like filmed us crossing it.
That's
so
cool.
It was fun, and then we had a lot of donuts, which was good.
That's unbelievable. All right, we had a lot to catch up on.
We had a lot to catch up on.
A lot of fun stuff. So I'm glad we got to cover all that. But now I think it's time to dive into baseball.
Okay, I got to ask, Ohtani. Shohei Ohtani.
Oh, okay, we're getting right into it.
Yeah, okay. So let me just... I'll quickly prime the audience on my baseball knowledge. Very, very minimal. I could probably name on one or maybe two hands the number of baseball teams I could name by heart. And I do know Ohtani, who's a Japanese baseball player who had an insane contract last year.
Yeah, he became the highest paid player in North American sports history. His contract officially is 10 years, $700 million.
Which is like 2 times as much as whoever is getting paid second.
Yeah, whatever it is, it's like well beyond what everyone else in the league is getting paid. The way they structured the contract is what made headlines because they're basically giving him $2 million a year for the next 10 years because in baseball, you can defer as much of the contract as you want as long as the player agrees to it.
Is that only a baseball thing?
I think it is just a baseball thing. They're like, whatever, they've negotiated some terms with like the collective bargaining agreements, and this is one of them that you can defer payment. Now, usually that benefits the team more than the player. In this instance, it benefits the Dodgers, who signed him a ton, because they now have cap space for the next 10 years to build around Ohtani. They have more money to spend because they're only paying him $2 million a year for the next 10 years. And then the 10 years after that, they're basically paying him $68 million a year.
Okay.
So when that point comes, they're going to have a lot less money to spend on other players. But in 10 years from now, $68 million is going to be worth a lot less than $68 million is today.
And I remember at the time, people were like, why is he doing this? Why is he deferring money? It's essentially losing money, right? Because like the economics perspective is get it early, you can then invest it, make even like 3% annually, and you just have more money than you could have had.
Right. The interesting wrinkle here is that if Ohtani's no longer living in Los Angeles, let's say he moves to a state like Florida where there's no state income tax, how much of that money is he actually saving? Now, I know it's already like a legal issue. LA is trying to prevent the Dodgers and Ohtani from deferring it to the point where he doesn't have to pay taxes. They're basically saying like, no, technically you're earning that while you're a citizen of Los Angeles.
Sure.
But yeah, if for him, like he could end up saving $20 million a year by not having to pay income taxes on the $68 million, which is crazy.
Yeah. So that's the backdrop. So that happened last year.
Yes. So that happened in this offseason. He got that contract.
And when is the offseason?
The offseason is basically in the cold months, in the winter.
Okay.
So the offseason, I think this happened back in like October, November, December time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 6 months ago.
Yeah.
Okay. So then hit us with it.
Okay. So the big news around baseball right now, and it has died down a little bit over the last week, but it's still like pretty monumental. The story broke about 2 weeks ago. The headline read, Ohtani's interpreter accused of massive theft. Now,
Okay.
I don't know why I found that headline to be funny. Just the phrase massive theft to me is like a little like funny. But that was the headline that came out.
I
And
feel like it should be massive thievery.
right?
I don't know.
Massive theft feels just like kind of comical.
It seems cartoonish.
Yeah, a little
Seems
bit.
like some like robber with like fireman carrying
Massive
some
theft.
some like bag of dollar bills.
It's just a meme. Like someone like sneaking off with candy. From the cabinet. Massive theft.
Yeah.
But that was what the headline read. And the ESPN article, I don't remember the author's name, so I can't give her credit, but she basically wrote this article detailing the timeline of events. Now, the interpreter, Ohtani, speaks English, but I guess not confidently enough to speak it with reporters.
But he's on
out
a
in
baseball
public.
team. You know he's watching film in English. And
I'm
his
sure
coach is
he's
talking to
speaking
him.
with his teammates in English. But that being said, he has this interpreter who goes with him basically everywhere. He's his right-hand man. I don't know if he lives with him, but he's his guy. They drive to games together. They warm up together in the offseason.
How much do you think the interpreter's getting paid?
Probably a decent amount.
Probably.
So what happened was this article came out and it basically said this woman sat down with the interpreter for 90 minutes. Ohtani's team made the interpreter available. And his name is Ipe. I forget his last name. We'll call him Ipe.
Okay.
They made Ipe available for this 90-minute interview in which he said he has a really bad gambling problem and he was $4.5 million in debt to an illegal sports bookie in Los Angeles. Sports betting is not legal in California. They haven't legalized it yet.
Okay.
So they were betting, his interpreter, Ipe, was betting illegally through a bookie. And he said that Ohtani, as a good friend, was basically bailing him out of the debt.
Okay.
And that was the story that was supposed to run. And then before ESPN could run it, Ohtani's legal team reached out to ESPN and said, don't run this article. Everything he said is a lie. Because they saw what he was saying and was like, this doesn't make Ohtani look good at all. Like, he can't run this. Like,
Okay.
Ohtani paying off his debts to this illegal book is still illegal. And there were two $500,000 like wires that had Ohtani's name on it to the illegal book. So everything at first was coming together to be like, wait, the story that the interpreter told made a lot of sense. And Ohtani was being a good friend and bailing him out. Now, as people have pointed out over time, like there are still holes in the interpreter's original story. Like, how can you wire $500,000 multiple times to an illegal book? Like, the FBI monitors things like that. Like, you can't just like get away with that easily. So there were holes in the story, but until Ohtani actually made a public statement, people were assuming like, yeah, he bailed this guy out and like illegally paid a bookie and was like potentially going to go to jail.
So, okay. What's the story right now? Is the story that?
Or the story right now is that a few days after that, Ohtani basically made like a 10-minute public statement.
Wow. In English?
Saying,
oh, now he speaks English.
He did it through an interpreter.
Okay, fair.
Through a different interpreter. Because this whole time, his legal team was saying, no, Ohtani didn't pay this. The interpreter stole all of it. Like, Ohtani is the victim of massive theft. Yeah. And Ohtani then came out and made a statement saying, like, I had no idea about this. I was incredibly blindsided. I'm very hurt. And like, he stole this money. Now, that is obviously up to people to make their decisions. The FBI is involved. The MLB launched their own investigation. They're like, the forces that be will get to the bottom of this.
Yeah.
But for the time being, people are assuming like Shohei's legal team wouldn't tell him to make such a definitive statement because he's now accusing the interpreter of $4.5 million in theft.
Yeah.
And that could send the guy to jail for a very, very long time. So if this were to go to court and there is any shred of like you, Ohtani, bailing this guy out, like not only have you done that illegally, but you've also lied.
You've like committed perjury.
Exactly.
Like, lied in front of a judge.
So
wow.
All of that is where things sit now.
So like what are the Dodgers doing? Are they doing anything? Are they worried? What are the implications on Ohtani? Like, could he go to jail?
if he
goes to jail, will the Dodgers have to pay him out his contract?
I don't think so. I think if you go to jail, you're not obligated to pay the contract. But the MLB didn't launch an investigation at first because Ohtani being out of the game is like the worst thing that could happen to the game. He is such a massive superstar that having him in baseball is like, it's done wonders for the sport. So they really they were like, we don't really want to investigate this because we don't want anything to be wrong. But once he made this big statement and like, they were like, oh, it's probably fine. Like he probably didn't actually do anything and he is a victim. We'll launch our own investigation, which is like, okay, like MLB, like get your act together. Like the commissioner didn't make a statement either. It was honestly a bad look. But where things sit now is Ohtani saying like, I didn't know about this. This guy who I thought was my friend stole all this money.
Wired it to the bookie, $500,000
or however he did it.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of details about this story that have yet to come out. I don't know obviously what the deal is.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know what to think at this point either. But like the FBI, I'm sure will uncover exactly what happened.
It's like a high profile case to say the least.
Very high profile. The fascinating thing is like the MLB and the Dodgers really don't want this to be the topic of conversation. So like
people
they've
are like
done a good job of pushing it to the side.
It's crazy because this is not the first time, and I'll ask you about another thing that I don't know if you know about, but like everyone is so biased.
Yeah.
Like so many people don't want him to be convicted or doing any type of criminal activity.
Right.
And it's like, how much can you get away with while still thinking in like an impartial or still acting or thinking in an impartial way?
Yeah.
That's what's like this balancing act.
I know. It's going to be really interesting to watch it develop because the teams don't want him to be involved, obviously. And he just has such a universal love across baseball that like everyone, like you're saying, is just like, oh, we don't want it to be true.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Okay, so this other thing I was going to ask you about, and you might not know anything about it.
Oh, sorry. One extra note.
Yeah.
Sorry to cut you off there. Is that the other important wrinkle in this is that throughout the interpreter, Ippei's like testimony to this reporter, he always definitively said, I never bet on baseball. Because if he was betting on baseball, then he's using inside information to make money, and that makes it even worse.
Yeah.
And Ohtani basically in his statement was like, I didn't know about this. I never bet on baseball. I don't bet. Like, said all of those things. So the betting on baseball became a thing of like, if the FBI uncovers that Ohtani was involved, the next step is, did he bet on baseball? And if that's the case, it's like, whoa,
there's a real issue.
That opens a real can of worms.
So there's this basketball scandal right now with betting. It has to do with
I did hear about
some
this.
like really like scrub of a player. Jonah told me about this scrub of a player, like 10th man on like some random team
in college.
No, in the NBA.
Yeah.
So pretty much he was in and out of like injuries, and the only times that like people placed money on him hitting like an over-under was when he intentionally sat himself out of a game. Mm-hmm. So they like bet on the under of him making a certain number of points, and he sat himself down, and then it was later found out that there was some, transaction happening between him and the bettor, and I think he's like suspended indefinitely from basketball.
Sure.
I don't really know.
He'll probably go to jail.
He'll probably go to jail.
Yeah.
But it's actually, I think things like this in the future will become harder and harder to catch because there will be more and more intricate lies.
Yep.
And with just like the advent of technology and all this other stuff.
Exactly. And sports betting will be so prevalent that like, how are you going to prevent this?
Sports betting is it's just so easy. It's so easy.
That story is insane. I heard about it over the weekend and I hadn't heard about it before. But yeah, this guy who like gets no minutes, has the other people bet on him, gets into the game for a minute, says he's injured, comes out of the game, and then anyone who bet on his under on points makes a ton of money.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And they didn't actually find that there was a tie between him and who was betting. They just found there was a tie between him and the massive amount of bets that were going on at the times he took himself out, like those few games in the season, and they were able to tie it back to him. So that's pretty interesting.
Wild.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, so
a lot of crazy shit.
A lot. And we haven't even gotten into the actual ones and twos of baseball.
Yeah, let's hit ones and twos, baby.
Maybe what we can do is we'll cover the basics because we've already been going for a while. Maybe we'll cover the basics, the intro, and then we'll do another episode, Baseball Part 2, where we'll get into a little bit more of the details.
We do have 2 drafts, so maybe we'll do 1 draft too.
Yeah, I like it. But that's a big story going on in baseball that you should know about and be aware of. It'll be developing, and we'll update you as it goes. But I think the first thing that I wanted to talk about when it comes to baseball is how difficult baseball is. I don't think people realize it. And I pulled in the science for this because I think it makes the case so compelling and so interesting. When a batter steps into the plate. They are 60 feet, 6 inches away from the pitcher.
Nice.
A pitcher, on average, throws his fastball 93 to 95 miles an hour. What that means is it takes a 95 mile an hour fastball 400 milliseconds to reach home plate where the batter is standing. Now, where that breaks down, a hitter's brain, a human's brain, takes approximately 100 milliseconds to fully process the image of the baseball. So 400 of those milliseconds, 100 of them gone. You have 300
Boom,
left.
take it away.
It takes 25 milliseconds for the brain to inform the body to make a movement. So 25 more off the plate. We're left with 275.
Can I just say, this reminds me of like when you have like 100 marbles and you take away the amount of time it takes to sleep, and like social media is like 30%. It's like you only have like 20 minutes.
20 minutes to live. That's such a great call.
And it's got like the elevator music in the background. And you're like, you're just like, it's so somber.
I know. I'm throwing my life away.
Yeah. And then you delete TikTok for a week and then you download it again the next week. Yeah.
That's such a great call. So we're now down to 275 milliseconds. Then it takes another 150 milliseconds to actually swing the bat and make contact.
Okay.
That leaves the hitter with 125 milliseconds to assess the direction of the ball that the pitcher threw and make a decision on whether or not to swing, and action on like the decision that he's making. So for context, 125 milliseconds. It takes roughly 300 to 400 milliseconds to blink. So in a third of the time that it takes you to blink, the player needs to recognize the pitch and then tell his brain, make this decision to swing. That is how difficult it is to hit a baseball. That is why, as a hitter, if you get a hit 3 out of every 10 at-bats, you are elite. You're amazing. So I just wanted everyone to know, because I feel like people don't recognize how difficult of a task it is to hit a baseball. Like, it is virtually impossible.
So as baseballs have been thrown faster and faster, because I assume that's a thing, they're trending towards faster fastballs.
For sure.
Is the batting averages going down?
Yes.
Okay.
The batting averages. So it's a combination of the fact that pitchers are getting better. So A, they're throwing harder, and B, the pitches that they throw that are like moving, like a curveball or a slider, they're throwing those in the high 80s, and it's darting across the plate, which makes it so incredibly hard. On top of that, the mechanics and the data behind hitters' swings is changing a little bit. So they're telling them to swing with a little bit more of an uppercut, because if you get more loft, it's a better chance to get a home run. Things like that. So the game is changing in multiple ways that makes it harder for a batter to hit 300.
Will there be a time that like hitting a ball is nearly impossible? Like, do we need to start protesting now?
Honestly,
we got to move the pitcher back a couple feet.
Yeah, maybe move the pitcher. Yeah. I think you might be right.
I think actually,
it's really freaking hard to hit.
It sounds hard.
But at the same time, like, teams score 10 runs like in multiple games.
Yeah,
in a
that's
week,
crazy.
So
and also, Shohei Ohtani has a batting average that people compare to Babe Ruth. Like, the dude is insane, right?
Yeah,
did I make that up?
I don't know what Babe Ruth's batting average was, but Ohtani is an elite hitter and an elite pitcher. I guess we kind of left that out. If you don't know who Ohtani is, that's why he's so special. He's
a phenom. Like, he is a one-of-a-kind best player since Babe Ruth.
He's an all-star as a pitcher, and he's an all-star as a hitter, and he does both. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
So, baseball is really freaking hard. When I said hit 300, the way that they do it in baseball is they don't give you like, you're 30%. It's over 1,000.
Yes.
So if you're batting 1,000, you get a hit every at-bat. If you're a really, really good player and you're hitting 300, it means you get a hit 3 out of every 10 at-bats.
Yes.
So that's what I meant by hitting 300.
Yes. That makes sense.
Yeah. So baseball's hard. That's point number 1.
Okay.
Now,
fair. I'll give it to you.
Should we get into how baseball works?
I think we should.
Okay. So let's do it. So the basics of the game of baseball, there are 9 innings. An inning is the home team hits, the away team hits. Sorry, reverse. The away team hits first. If you're the home team, you start in the field, and then the home team hits. Each team gets 3 outs in an inning. So you have 27 outs total as a team, and that's throughout the game. Now, each at-bat is when a player comes up to hit, and in any given at-bat, the batter can get out in multiple ways. They can ground out to someone in the field. They throw it to first. They can pop the ball up in the air. Someone catches it. That's a fly out. Or they can strike out, which is when there are 3 strikes thrown. And the last strike of the at-bat is either called by the umpire or they swing and they miss, and that's a strike. If there are 2 strikes in the count and the batter makes contact with it, but it doesn't go in play, it goes into what's called foul territory, stays at 2 strikes, they get to hit again. They get to keep going basically until they either get on base or they strike out and don't hit the ball. And then there are 4 balls. If the pitcher throws a pitch outside of the strike zone, it's like a standing rectangle. Then the batter gets to go to first, and it's called a walk. That's 4 balls.
Yeah, I think that was well done.
Okay, cool. Anything else here? Yeah, okay. There are 9 batters in a lineup.
Yes.
So if you're the leadoff hitter, you're hitting first. Once the 9th hitter comes up, you are then what's called on deck. So you're hitting next.
Yep.
And then you come back up. So the leadoff hitter gets typically the most at bats on a team.
Yes. And you probably want to formulate the leadoff and the next up and the next up in some formation to make it such that it's more conducive to scoring runs.
Exactly. You basically want to put your best hitters in the front half of your lineup. So 1 through 5 are typically going to be your best hitters. You usually want your first hitter to be someone who gets on base a lot.
Yep.
And then you want your second hitter to be someone who's really good at making contact. So if that first batter gets on, they can move them over. Or if they're in scoring position on second base, they can put the ball in play and get them to score. And then your 3rd, 4th, and 5th hitters, they're usually power hitters. Yeah. So that if your first and second batters get on base, those guys have a chance to really do damage.
They're
exactly.
Nice.
Exactly. And then the other component here, just like the basics, there are starting pitchers and there are relief pitchers. Starting pitchers are the guys who start the game on the mound for a team. They typically try to go at least 5, 6, or 7 innings if they have a really good start. If, for whatever reason, actually, really, in most games, they're not going to finish the game and throw what's called a complete game, pitch all 9 innings. So once the starter comes out of the game, then there are relievers. And most teams carry 8 relievers or maybe even 9. And those are guys who come in for 1 inning at a time for the most part. And they try to navigate different parts of the lineup and just get 3 outs and do their job and go to the dugout.
So this is interesting. And without spending too much time on this, because I don't know how interesting it is to our listeners, what qualities does a reliever have that a starter doesn't have? Is a reliever mostly a starter who's gotten a little old to pitch 100 pitches?
So there are guys like that. It's a really good question. Typically, relief pitchers have a few really dominant pitches, but they throw them so hard that they can't last that long.
Yeah.
Now, there are starting pitchers who throw 98 miles an hour and they throw that for 6 or 7 innings, and it's really incredible. But there are some relievers who have control over one pitch, and then they have a really, really good second or third pitch that they don't have as much control over. Mm-hmm. But if they can find that control for 1 inning, and they pitch it really well that inning, they can move through 1, 2, 3 really quickly.
I see.
So it's more about and sometimes they try to take relief pitchers and stretch them out into starters, but oftentimes their stuff, what they call for their pitches, doesn't translate as well to a longer period of the game.
So if you're going, let's just say you graduate college and are a pitcher, would you ever be a relief pitcher in professional baseball originally, right after college? Or is it sort of a demotion?
You could be. I guess some would probably consider it a demotion, but there are guys who come into the league just as relief pitchers. But to your point, a lot of them will spend time in the minor leagues as a starter and then transition to a reliever because they couldn't cut it as a starter. So yeah, it's definitely hard.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, cool. Should we hit on a couple terms? Because there are some terms that people need to know, and then maybe we should cut there and do baseball part 2 next week.
Yeah, but I also want to do a draft this week. So
absolutely.
Let's do terms and then let's do the draft, because the terms do have to do with a lot of what you were talking about earlier.
Okay, let's do it. So a few important terms that you guys will hear if you go to a baseball game, watch a baseball game. The first is a double play. A double play is when a team gets 2 outs in 1 play. Mm-hmm. Now, the most common one is there's a runner on first base. Also, there's first base, second base, third, and home. So if there's a runner on first base and there's a ground ball to the infield, let's say the shortstop, who's playing in between second and third, picks it up, tosses it to the second baseman. They step on second base and then throw to first. Mm-hmm. So they get the runner who was on first out at second, and they get the batter out at first. Now, what comes into play there is what's called a force play. If there's somebody on base, let's say you're on first base, and you're running to second with the ball in play, all the team needs to do is step on the base. They don't need to tag
with the ball.
With the ball, exactly. If, though, let's say you're on second base and there's nobody behind you on first, if you as the runner choose to go to third, because there's nobody forcing you to third, that's why it's called a force play. If there is someone on first and the ball's in play, that person on first is forcing the guy on second to run.
Yeah.
But because there's nobody forcing you, you then have to tag that runner.
Yep.
It's no longer a force play. So that brings some interesting things into play. Another term that I find comes into play a lot with kickball. This is something that, like, if you don't know, you can look foolish on the kickball field.
Sure.
And I experienced this past summer with some people. In baseball and kickball, if you are on base and a ball is hit into the air, if you start running and the team catches it and throws behind you to the base that you started at before you get back, you're out.
Yes.
And what you need to do as the runner is what's called tagging up. So let's say you're on third base, right?
Okay.
And there's a deep fly ball hit to the outfield. An outfielder, once they catch it, then you can run. If you're the batter and you start running and the player catches it, you need to get back to the base before they throw it there. But if you're waiting there, you're looking out to the outfield, you're seeing once they catch it, then you can tag up and run home. And that's a common way to score runs in baseball. If there's less than one out and there's a runner on third, you're trying to elevate a pitch. You're trying to hit it high in the air
and deep,
the outfield and deep, ideally, so that once the fielder catches it, there's enough time for the runner on third to score.
And it's like a sacrifice fly.
Exactly, a sacrifice fly.
Nice.
That was another important term. There's leading and stealing, but we don't need to get into that. I have balk on here. That's going to confuse some people, so we can skip that. If you're interested,
maybe next time.
Feel free to DM us. Happy to give you more detail there. Yep. And then the term dingers.
Dingers.
Popular term. Dingers is a term for a home run.
Really? I just thought dingers was a hit. I'm just hitting dingers. See, I just thought that was just like a single, a double. You can do whatever.
Nah, dingers are homers.
Okay. Fair.
Sweet. So should we get to one of the quizzes here? Or one of our drafts?
One of our drafts.
Yeah.
So let's draft the things that you can do at a baseball game to keep you entertained.
Okay.
And
I like it.
I think we should do 4 each.
4 each.
I think we should snake draft like we usually do.
Okay.
So I go first, you go second and third, I go fourth and fifth.
Sure.
And we'll let our audience decide who had the best draft.
Okay. I like it. Let's go.
Okay. So I'll go first. First of all, the Coney Island knishes at baseball games. I don't know if you had these.
I haven't.
But getting a Coney Island knish or a hot dog will kill at least 15 minutes at a baseball game. You'll be thoroughly enjoying yourself. It was one of these things. I remember that Sarah told me about Coney Island knishes for the first time at a New York Yankees game, and it's nuts. These knishes are they're mass manufactured, and they're the best type of knishes ever. You actually got to get it. I think
I've had knishes at a baseball game before, but not Coney Island.
Really?
Yeah.
What knishes have you had?
Like potato knishes at a Yankee game.
They were Coney Island.
Really?
I think so.
That could be.
Yeah. So anyway, it'll kill at least 15 minutes. Your stomach will be happy. They'll be thanking you. So eat is choice number one. I would say specifically Coney Island knish
because my first pick was going to be eat.
Okay. Do you have a snack of choice?
Hot dog.
Okay.
Just like I think I have infinite room for hot dogs at a baseball game. I could eat like 6. Have one every other inning.
Yeah.
Just fill up. It's a good time.
Speaking of, I saw this video yesterday, I think. I didn't send it to you because I didn't think it was going to come up. Okay. But someone stuck a straw through a hot dog and made the hot dog a straw. Did you see this?
Wait, I think that was someone at John Boy Media who did. No, it wasn't. We posted it.
Really?
John Boy Media posted it, but it wasn't someone we knew.
Oh, that's so funny. So anyway.
Psycho move.
Yeah, so someone stuck a straw through a hot dog to make the hot dog a straw and then drank beer via the hot dog. Ugh. But like, I can't...
It's so gross.
Yeah, it's actually so gross. Anyway, so eat. Okay, but so you don't get to take eat. I just want to be clear. Like, eat was mine, so you get the second and third.
Okay. All right. Taking eat off the board is really tough.
Okay, I got a lot. So.
Eating at a baseball game is like easily number one. I'm glad we both had that as number one because like if you guys don't know what to do, just eat.
Yeah, just eat.
When in doubt, eat.
It's expensive, but it's worth it.
For sure. Okay. I guess my first pick will be yell at the umpire for anything and everything. Just nonsensical things. My favorite thing to do at a baseball game is when you are so far away that you obviously can't tell if something is a strike or a ball, and they call a ball, and you go, or they call a strike, you go, that's outside! What are you looking at, Blue? So
wait, why do they call them blue?
They used to wear blue uniforms. Now they wear black. But the term blue just stuck.
Oh, that's funny.
If you're
it's like
talking about
zebras
the
in
umpire,
football.
Exactly. You should call them blue. So I would say Yell at the umpire.
Okay.
That's my first pick. My second pick along similar lines is, and this isn't something that I do, I have way too much shame to do this, but it would probably pass the time nicely if you heckled players.
Yes.
If you're in the outfield and you're just heckling some guys,
yeah,
that's always top-notch
Baseball
quality.
Players have nice asses also. They're voluptuous. I've seen a lot of TikToks about people heckling about others'
And don't say anything mean.
Yeah.
It can be playful, and sometimes they'll engage with you, which is funny because they're sometimes bored in the outfield.
Yep.
But I think heckling players would be my second choice.
Okay. I got a couple good ones, which you're gonna be like, oh, that's a good one.
Okay.
So two really. My second choice is get way too into the 7th inning stretch. So if they have mascots running around the bases, you got to put some money with your boy on a specific mascot that's winning the race. Or everyone thinks they're the smartest guy in the room with the different baseball caps on the Jumbotron, like hiding the baseball, twirling in different...
Have you ever gotten that wrong?
No.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
100% at the baseball hiding.
Yeah. I didn't say I was a genius, but like... So
I'm always blown away by the people in the stadium who are like, it's 2. I'm like, no, you moron, it's 3.
Get some fucking glasses. So I would say that's number 2.
That's a good pick.
So okay, when I was a kid, and I don't actually know what teams we were going to, like a minor. This was in Lexington, Kentucky, and we were watching minor league baseball. But in the like park around the stadium, they had one of those places where you could throw a baseball and see how fast your pitch was.
Oh yeah,
that stuff's really fun.
That is fun.
So if you're not liking the game, just go down, start throwing a couple pitches. I've seen a couple TikToks where people have been recruited because they're throwing like 98, 99 at the bottom.
Yeah.
You saw this. John Boy probably posted it.
Yeah. There's a guy who did that at an athletics game.
Yes.
And he threw like 96, and they were like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
We didn't get this guy.
Yeah. Meanwhile, he just didn't enjoy the show, so he went downstairs.
Yeah, he's like, I'm bored. You want me to play all the time? All right.
So I would say that's my 2 and 3.
Okay, those are good picks. My next pick is boring, but it will really pass the time. If you just walk around the stadium and watch the game from different vantage points on the concourse,
that is really funny.
It's a good time. You're like, ooh, I didn't realize it looked like this from here.
Yeah.
Let me try the other foul pole.
That's good.
That's my third pick. And this is my last pick?
This is your last pick.
Oh, man. Okay. I feel like I wasn't fully prepared for this.
I have a couple in my back pocket.
Okay.
So I can spot you if you...
No, that's good. Don't spot me. My last one is going to be watching the different fans that they put on the Jumbotron.
That's funny.
Because anytime there's a break, they'll show some fans in the stands. And yeah, that's...
Okay.
Or trying to get on the Jumbotron yourself. That's going to be my pick. I take it back.
That's good.
Getting on the Jumbotron. Good way to pass the time. That's my 4th and final pick.
So
Thank you.
Speaking of that, did you see this new like AI thing that the Lakers have where it makes everyone look like they're crying on the Jumbotron?
No.
This is hilarious. I got to show you it. Like everywhere they go, it's like J. Cole crying all of a sudden, and they like reformulate his face. It's really hilarious.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
My favorite is when they show lookalikes.
Yeah, that's
Celebrity
very funny.
Lookalikes in
That's
the stands.
funny.
That's amazing. They showed Orly in the stands last night at the game.
Oh, that would have been great.
An easy
that
one.
would have been electric.
We tried to get her on.
Nice. She's such a good sport, Orly.
I know. She killed it. She was taking pictures with everyone.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Okay, you were like a proud dad. A couple things on my end. So I have one left. So
you've got options.
I got options. This one is pretty ridiculous. I've never done it myself, I must say, but I have seen a lot of other people doing it. It's like keeping stats. Those like old dudes
keeping the book. Is what they call
keeping the book.
Yeah.
They're like mark everything. It's really engaging. You must be like immersed in the game to even keep all of these stats about the players.
You need to be locked in because keeping the book is something that they do in high school and college. I think they do it in the MLB. Someone in the dugout is keeping the book, but it means tracking every single pitch. So if there's a ball, you're making a tally mark in that player's box. If there's a strike, you're making a tally mark. If they hit a fly ball to right
obsolete.
field, you're writing in F9 or F7, whatever it is. And I don't think anyone under the age of 60 has ever done this at a game, but I love seeing people do it. It's my favorite thing. It warms my heart seeing a guy in there or gal with their book keeping track of every single pitch.
It's probably
of the game.
good for the brain.
Probably.
You got to imagine they're working some areas of the brain that I haven't touched. So.
It's honestly amazing. That's a fantastic pick. I would not recommend it to any of our listeners.
Okay.
but it is probably the best way to spend the time at a baseball game if you're trying to pass the time quickly.
A couple of other ones. Okay, so these are honorable mentions.
Yeah, give me those.
Bring binoculars. Just start looking at shit. Like, watch the ball, watch other fans, do whatever you want. You can really zoom in on shit. I bring binoculars to Central Park sometimes. A little creepy, I must say, but I just people spot. It's very fun. Bring a deck of cards. Never done it because I won't stoop that low, but I have seen people playing Egyptian rat screw, euchre, things like this.
Just from the seats?
Just from the seats.
Baseball's a good chill. Baseball's
It's a
about
great
the chill.
chill.
It's about the vibes. You don't need to be paying attention the whole time.
Yeah, no, certainly not. Lastly is, and this is a classic, is trying to catch a foul ball.
Yes.
You got to be standing up, always trying to catch a foul ball or whatever's thrown your way. You know, they're always shooting out different shirts and towels and all that good stuff. So.
I only very recently stopped bringing my glove to the game.
Yeah.
Which
You were
is
getting
sad,
old.
It's a sad time in life when you realize it's a little too childish to wear your glove.
Yeah.
I only decided that like 3 years ago.
Okay.
So I was
You were a little late, but honestly.
Time.
So you've been catching foul balls for the past 2 decades.
I've only ever caught one ball at a game, and it was during batting practice. I caught a home run.
Oh, that's sick, though.
It was
you
really
caught
cool.
a deep one.
It was really cool. And ever since then, I've gotten close. There have been balls kind of close to me, but I've never caught a foul ball. It's honestly terrifying.
Yeah.
The ball's like tumbling down at you, spinning crazy fast. If you catch it, you're a legend.
Yeah, and
But
the
if you
people that catch it barehanded, they're legends.
Unbelievable. Everyone in the stadium cheers for them. It's awesome.
And
Very
they got
cool.
like a baby. They're like rocking a baby in one arm. You're like, that dad's doing it right.
Baby in the arm catches the ball in a beer glass in the other hand.
Oh my God.
Unbelievable.
It's sick.
Those
It's
guys
sick.
are legends.
All right, well, that's the draft.
We want to make sure we hit Hold My Beer for you guys. So that
hold my beer.
You know what to watch this coming weekend.
Yes.
So 2 things. We touched on March Madness. The Final Four is coming up for men and women. For the men's tournament, the games are Saturday night. Purdue versus NC State. That's Purdue is the 1 seed. NC State is the 11 seed. That game is happening at 6 p.m. this Saturday night. And then UConn, the number 1 overall, plays the 4 seed Alabama at 9:30. Those are your matchups. In the women's tournament, the Final Four is happening Friday night. South Carolina, who is undefeated. They have not lost yet this year.
Wow.
They play NC State.
Okay.
And UConn takes on Iowa. And Iowa has Caitlin Clark. UConn has Paige Beckers, one of the best players in college basketball. So that's going to be an awesome matchup. The first game is at 7. Second game is at 9:30, both on Friday night.
Heck yeah.
Now, what you might notice is that there were some familiar common names in the men's and women's bracket. That is because NC State has their men's and women's team in the Final Four.
Whoa.
And UConn has their men's and women's team in the Final Four. Now, there have been years where this has happened in the past for a one-off, but this is the first time in history that 2 schools have had both their men's and women's team in the Final Four.
What's the seed of the NC State women's team?
They are a 3 seed, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, so they're not as much of a surprise, but still, like, impressive that they're there.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, pretty crazy. 4 of the 8 teams competing are from the same school.
Wait, and did you say that it's never actually happened where both the men and women have won from the same school?
So it's happened twice in history. UConn men and women won in 2004, and the UConn men and women won in 2014. But it's never happened that multiple schools have had both men's and women's team in the same year. So
I see.
Teams have done it as a one-off in the past. Like a few years ago, UConn had both men and women in the Final Four. But this year, UConn and NC State have
So I don't know the
Four.
brackets well enough, but is there a chance that they play them like UConn, NC State in the finals, or does that not line up right?
Yeah, it could, because if UConn beats Iowa and NC State beats South Carolina for the women, they would play each other. And if NC State beats Purdue and UConn beats Alabama, that would be really, really cool.
That would be cool.
Whoa, now I'm kind of rooting for that.
yeah, that'd be
That's
awesome.
Wow.
Okay, awesome.
And then the only other thing, coming down the stretch, we are getting to the end of the NBA and NHL regular season. There are about 7 to 8 games left for both of them. For the NBA, for the most part, the playoff spots are locked up. Right now, we could be looking at a Lakers-Warriors, LeBron-Steph Curry matchup in the 9 seed against 10 seed play-in game, which would be fascinating. And the winner of that would play the winner of the 7-8 game, and then the winner of that
we talked about
makes
that.
the playoffs. Sorry, a little complicated. But that's kind of where we're sitting right now. The Rockets in the East, all the spots are basically locked up. In the Western Conference, the Houston Rockets are currently 2 games back of the Warriors with 8 games to play. The Rockets play the Warriors on Thursday night in Houston. So that is a very, very pivotal game. If the Warriors win that game, they pretty much lock up that 10th or 9th final spot to make the play-in.
Okay, so the Warriors might not even make the play-in.
They might not. If the Rockets beat them and the Rockets are only one game back with 7 to play, they could easily overtake the Warriors for that final spot.
Whoa.
Yeah.
All right.
And then for the NHL, lots of playoff spots still up for grabs, still up in the air. The end of the season will be very intense. So that's going to be a ton of fun to watch for any of you hockey fans out there. And even if you're not, the end of the season is going to have a lot of added intensity. So keep an eye out for those games.
Just tell me when to turn on my TV and I will.
I'll text you. Sweet. So that's all my beer for this week. Anything else? Anything from you?
Well, a big ultra race was run, the Barkley Marathons. It's a race in rural, just Forest, Tennessee.
Okay.
Complicated history. I don't know actually who the finishers are. There's not many finishers per year. It's one of these crazy races. It's 100 miles. It's 5 laps around. It's in Appalachian Trail type vibes, but off trail shit.
Okay.
So you're going through the thicket trying to run versus this course that's remade every single year from this guy Lazarus Lake, who's the commissioner of this race. Complicated race. I don't actually know a couple of finishers this year. Usually there's only 2 or 3. The first women's finisher to ever finish this entire race happened this year. Crazy. I think maybe I'm mixing this up, but I think it was a Ukrainian woman or maybe it was a Ukrainian man. But anyway, a lot of interesting stuff there. I can get more into it. I just didn't do my research here, but it was a really cool ultra marathon. Cool. It happens once a year. And again, only I think 5 to 10% of finishers even cross that line.
Wow.
So
that's kind of crazy.
Yeah, pretty crazy. There's also a really cool Netflix documentary called The Barkley Marathons about this that I encourage everyone to watch.
Huh. Maybe I'll check that out. I have so many Netflix documentaries to watch.
Yeah, dude.
They're endless.
Dude, but add it to the front of the queue.
Okay, all right. Text me.
Dude, there's another
I'll need a reminder.
Also, Naiad. Shout out to this crazy sports movie, Naiad, about this swimmer who swam from Cuba to Florida, Havana, Cuba to Florida. Swam.
How many miles is that?
It's about 100 miles, swam at the ripe age of 61.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Her first attempt was at the age of 26. So she spent her entire life trying to actually tackle this thing, did it at the age of 61.
I can't swim a 1/10 of a mile without fainting.
Yeah, I can't swim at all. It's been my Achilles. It's been my Achilles heel when it comes to triathlons. I don't know how to swim. No, I can tread water.
I would do a triathlon, but I can't swim.
No, I actually was training for one for a long time, and then I gave up on the swimming, and that was it. That's our first half of baseball. We'll talk more. So we got some logistics to figure out because I'm gone for the next month.
I know. We'll figure it out. We'll make sure we get you guys that episode. But I also want to thank everyone who joined our March Madness pool.
Yes, thank you
all. You guys are
all.
awesome. We got 57 people to join, which is incredible. So we're stoked about that. Thank you guys for the support and for joining. And good luck to Sarah and Max.
Yeah, Sarah and Max, good luck. Sarah, I'll be expecting you to split it with me. I'm excited. I'll pick the dinner place. And that's it.
Love it. Wow. Well, thank you guys again for listening. Make sure you rate, review, subscribe, share this with a friend. Obviously, we love you guys for listening. It helps a ton when you share the pod. So thank you guys.
Yes. Rookie Mistakes _pod on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube.
Yep.
And we're always on Spotify. Smash that like button, and we'll see you next time.
We'll see you next week with some more baseball.